So this past weekend, this past Saturday and Sunday, Team Machine, we held our first ever mid-annual off-site workshop, which we did in Nashville. There's a few of us that are located in this area, so a majority of the rest of the team all flew in, got a conference room, hotel rooms, catered food, the whole thing, and we just dialed in for 2 days straight, back to back. It was wildly productive, well worth the investment. We've all been forced to learn how to work remotely with different tools that facilitate us doing that. But nothing, at least yet, is the same as being in the same room with your people. And just that energy that it has created, work off each other in real time. It was great to be a part of that. It's something that we'll sustain and continue to do. And a method that I employed as I was leading this workshop was the road to war. And that's a military, term or phrase, military concept, certainly military language, right? Road to war. And it's something that we often use in preparation for us going into an operational environment. Usually it's spearheaded by our intel people. Oftentimes I'm involved in putting that together. But it's just a walk through time, going back as far as necessary to paint the picture of how we got to where we are today, how the situation on the ground got to where we are now. Key events, key personalities. It just paints a picture. It just tells a story. The road to war is just telling the story that gets the team beginning to understand the operational environment that they're going into. So we use that quite often. So I employed that same kind of tactic for this workshop. And I pulled just some of our original kind of logos and designs. And this started as just me, just throwing stuff together just to start to try to visualize something, and you put all those images just in kind of sequence, and you walk and talk through just the initial inception of an idea, and you're able to watch it build and grow and mature over time. Obviously, as I begin to bring other people in and the team starts to grow and you see their input into the company and into the brand and into the vision, you just start to make these adjustments and fine tune some things, and you mess it up a whole bunch of times, and you can see that in front of you, over the course of like a 5-10 minute little exercise, a road to war exercise. So we did that, and I think it was well received, and it worked. The intent of that was met. One of the main things really is the genesis of the Machine brand compared to what it is now, and what we live by now, and what that brand represents. As part of that road to war story. It began as a single person. Right? The Machine was a person. That person was me. And the genesis of that term is one that I've talked about on other platforms and interviews and stuff. And it was my first deployment to Afghanistan as an amputee, which was in 2015. And it didn't take long before a lot of the locals began to refer to me as the Machine. Word travels fast in places like that by word of mouth. So we would roll into a village that we had never been to, and after being there 2 minutes, oftentimes it'd be the kids would be saying, "Oh, look, it's the Machine," or "You're the Machine," Machine. And they were using the phrase Palawana Machina, which is Dari for machine fighter. Palawana is fighter, and then machine is machine. So they were literally referring to me as the machine fighter. Palawana Machina, Palawana Machina. You know, these kids or even village elders would be saying it. You know, eventually, pretty quickly, we caught on that this was kind of a growing trend. Me and my teammates. You know, it was kind of funny, and we joke about it. We see and ask each other, "Hey, you think the Palawana Machine is going to come out? You know, on this next thing we're doing?" Sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't. You know, so it was just kind of a joke. Jim Reapers, actually, who's my longest standing partnership. I've been affiliated with Jim Reapers now 7 years. When Rock, who's the founder and CEO of Jim Reapers, he reached out to me in 2016 when he was just getting started. You know, Jim Reapers began as a single person, as most, if not all, entrepreneurial endeavors do. Single dude, young, you know, early 20s, living in a double wide trailer just outside of Boise. That's how it began. You see what they've built to up to today. Talk about a road to war story. That one's absolutely epic. So very proud partnership, unbelievable people. But we did a whole project around the machine fighter. The Jim Reapers media team. You know, we did a documentary together. It's about an hour long. It's available. It's on YouTube, and then we did some apparel based around that as well. Some designs that are on some shirts. The Machine Fighter. The Machine Fighter shirt or shirts products comes from this story. You know, the inception of the machine. During our exercise this past weekend, as we were doing our road to war, talking about our brand, the machine brand, you know, you see that. Like, well, this idea began really as one person in 2015, and then it really took hold the following year, in 2016, when my team and I were in Somalia, so an entirely different continent, and the same exact thing happened. When we were there, the same exact thing happened where the locals began calling me Machine. You know, so then it really stuck. It was like, this is now really funny. You know, no one called me that. Still to this day, none of my friends or teammates call me Machine or the Machine. It's kind of funny to even just like visualize one of my teammates or friends referring to me as such. That's never been a thing. It was more just in our operational environments with the locals and with the people and with our partner force, that became a thing. So after 2016, it really cemented kind of this concept that was just part of our reality. Since then, you know, my interpretation of what machine is in a lot of ways the complete opposite of that. You know, meaning the machine brand, right? The machine concept or the machine idea is that of a team. It's a team concept. It's a detachment concept. And I can remember even back in 2015, you know, locals calling me the Machine and like putting me on this pedestal of this, you know, cyborg organism that is something out of a comic book. You know, in a place like Afghanistan, for sure, that's an understandable depiction that I was presenting to these people. You could also argue here in the States, you see me walking through a grocery store, it's like, oh, what am I looking at? You know, I get this all the time. You know, whether it's kids or adults, it's like, it's a big dude, tattoos, bald head, one leg. Like, there's a lot going on to process. And when I start talking, I mean, forget about Boston accent. There's like a lot of data points to try to put together to make sense of what I'm seeing in front of me. Many of you would just have to try to imagine that being drastically amplified in a place like Afghanistan. But I can still remember back then, when being kind of put on this pedestal and looked up to, literally, but more so figuratively, immediately having this understanding within myself that there was so many people around me that enabled that to happen. This was not this self-made initiative where I did all this on my own. I mean, nothing is farther from the truth. And even though what I did had never been done before, there were countless people that I relied on and that helped me make that into a reality. So even then, in 2015, when I'm being referred to as the machine, even at those points, I was like, yeah, okay, but there's like a lot of people, some of which you can visibly see in front of you right now, but many more that aren't physically here with me today that have been a part of creating what you are now looking at. I can remember thinking about that all the way back then. And again, this wasn't something that I reflected on or thought about or prayed on or began analyzing, until years later. But I can remember having those thoughts all the way back then. Fast forward a few years, and this machine concept that I could see without knowing exactly what it could turn into, using that as a brand, as an idea, as a concept, and really being inspired and motivated to change what most people's interpretation of the machine is. And to this day, most people, because the machine brand, we're babies, very much so. We are babies. But most would connect the machine to me as a person, and that's okay. And that'll likely remain the case forever or for a really long time with many people. Like, oh, this is the machine. It's Nick. He's the machine. And that's okay. Because it does open up an opportunity to tell that story, that road to war. Where it's like, yeah, you know what? It did begin that way, but it evolved. It evolved rapidly. And then once it became real, then we began deliberately messaging that and cementing that within who we are and what we represent and what this idea means to us. And it's that team concept. The machine brand represents a team and the power that exists within that team. And if you think about what a machine really is, it is a team. Even a single machine. I'm driving a machine literally right now. There's a massive engine directly in front of me. That's a machine. Well, that machine is comprised of a series of individual components. And when you put those components together with precision, deliberately put them together with precision, with sophistication, you get them to marry up and work in harmony together, you can create something quite special. You can create something incredibly powerful. You create a machine. Each of the components that go into that machine can be viewed as people that create that machine. Every individual on the team is a component. And when you put them together and they work in harmony, you create a machine. Therefore, the machine is the team. The machine is the team.